Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Lisa, and I'm honored to be your host. During the presentation, we ask that you use the Q&A button to submit your questions, and our speakers will do their best to answer them at the end of the session. We understand having access to data is core to all decision making. Our goal today is to show you a unified way to access your data across the organization where it's needed. We want to be mindful of your time, so let's kick off the DATAVERSE webinar to gain a deeper understanding of how you can leverage SAP data to increase agility and drive innovation. So our agenda today, we want to help you understand how you can connect your SAP data to the enterprise using Confluent and Onibex, and how we can help in that journey of modernization in your environment. Last, and more importantly, Andrea gets to demo the product so you can see it live today. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A. We also hope that you'll participate in the poll that's on the screen. To begin, let me introduce Gustavo Estrada, the CEO of Onibex. With more than 20 years of experience working with various SAP technologies, such as ABAP, HANA, SAP Cloud, integrating different systems like CRM, e-commerce, and other databases, Gustavo founded Onibex in 2015, providing SAP services and innovative solutions with the vision of building technology that generates a pleasant experience for the customer. Our co-host today is Jeremy Hogan, Staff Solution Engineer with Confluent. With over 25 years of enterprise experience, he's worked with companies such as VMware, Red Hat, and Citi. When he's not helping to build large-scale data-driven systems and cloud solutions and integrations for Fortune 500s, he's busy spending his time on a side quest to renovate and restore a local 100-year-old Irish pub. He also spends time in his shed building cigar box guitars, as well as hacking Raspberry Pi. So we welcome you both today. So I'll turn it over to Gustavo at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for the intro, and Jeremy, thanks for joining. Everybody, thank you for joining this webinar. We are at Onibex, and we are the easy way to do the hard stuff. Why? Because we took the time to pre-package these integrations. Basically, coming from the SAP consulting world, we realized that starting from scratch was not a good option because the project always had a limited amount of time to do some integrations from SAP to third-party applications, which are in the constant rise, right? I mean, we're always adding a new solution, a new feature here and there with an external application. So let's just put it in context. We as consumers of data are now demanding to have real-time integrations. So it's not this is something that started, to be a reality about 10 years ago. So we are now in the position where if we're going to see a movie, we're going to see it in real time in a streaming. It's not like we are going to, go and rent a movie or get our computer in Napster to download a song and wait till the next night for us to get it, right? So this is pretty much what we are expecting today, to have data in real time. And we need to have this data in real time for multiple purposes, for our operations, but as well to take decisions. So we have a challenge here in the enterprises. The challenge is that we have disconnected understanding. So we have a very solid understanding on the SAP side because SAP has been in the market for the last 50 years. But then we have some other solutions that have been emerging and adding value. We know, for example, Salesforce, that is very solid for a CRM as a CRM solution. But nowadays, Salesforce does more than just a CRM. They also have a data warehouse solution. They also have a middleware. And we have other companies like Confluent and DataVerse that do one thing and one thing only, and they do it pretty well. Then, so companies are in the journey of becoming the intelligent enterprise. So we have something that is very clear. SAP S/4HANA is the future for us to manage the business processes. And now we need to be very careful on selecting two other components. One is Databricks, one is data fabric, and the other one is a lakehouse. These two components are going to play a significant role in our organization. Why? Because the data fabric is going to be the one sending the data across the entire applications and machines and databases. And the lakehouse is going to help us to see data products and to be that data-driven company. So in today's reality, we cannot be a one single vendor architecture because then we're not going to get the best of all worlds. So we get it. On the SAP side, S/4HANA and SAP is releasing a new set of features every 3 months. And there is a major release every year. So keeping up with the pace of the evolution for business process modernization is hard. We need to understand now the implications of dynamic MRP or how to better use the universal journal ledger to consolidate the accounts. So the SAP team needs to be in constant modernization of their business processes, and that is the challenge. That is a big challenge. Then we have another team that is in the journey of modernizing the data from the analytics point of view. So a lot of companies already have a very good understanding of what happened, but now they're moving towards using artificial intelligence to know what is going to happen using machine learning for prescriptive analytics. And that is also a big challenge. Then we have other groups that are in the journey of creating a central nervous system. This is very important, relevant for organizations right now, and it's critical for us to get to this point to build a central nervous system to unlock the real value of data for decision making. So this concept of data fabric is fairly new compared to other concepts that have been, that have been there for years and decades. So what Gartner says about a data fabric is that it's the backbone for knowledge discovery and decision making. And the attributes of a data fabric is that it needs to be enterprise-wide, across applications, and not constrained by platforms. This is, we need to make sure that that data fabric is not going to be locked in a single platform, but is going to have access to all data, not just from applications, but also for the sensors or PLCs or IoT. So the data fabric needs to have access to the data that is going to become information to generate real-time experiences. And those real-time experiences are going to allow us to take decisions in real time as well. Or it's not just going to be the historical data again, but some of those real-time experiences are going to give us a forecast of what is going to happen based on the history. So if we take that as an example, if we're going to do a forecasting, if we're going to do artificial intelligence to predict what is going to happen tomorrow, and we send the information from yesterday, then it's too late. We need to make sure that for us to use artificial intelligence, which in the pool was the first priority for a lot of you guys, if we are sending data to use artificial intelligence to pretty much go back to the point of modernizing some of these business processes, thanks to the group that is in the data modernization journey, we need to make sure that that data fabric is there for us to get data across the different units in real time. Okay, so now let's see. We need to connect the best in breed technologies, and for that, Confluent is the best solution. Confluent is the ultimate data fabric solution to connect data in real time for analytics and across the different business processes. So we're going to pass it to Jeremy for him to explain why Confluent is the best in breed solution and how Confluent has enabled organizations across the globe to achieve this goal.
Thanks, Gustavo. So today I'm going to introduce you all to Confluent, and this concept we call data in motion, which is kind of a new category of data infrastructure that's key to competing and winning in today's digital economy. Because across every industry, companies are becoming digital first, data first, and that means companies are not just using software, but large portions of their business are being defined by software. Mark Andreessen famously said, software is eating the world, but I think it's also true that data is changing the world. What we see happening around us every day, whether it's through our interactions with mobile applications or seeing metrics from rocket launches or seeing our maintenance workers working with tablets or witnessing our doctor working from digital medical record workstations, our interactions with the world are immersed in data. We throw off data. With everything we do, we use data to do more things. Like Gustavo pointed out, the days of downloading from Napster or waiting all day for a low-res video to load or download are gone. Today's consumers have the entire world at their fingertips, and they kind of hold an unforgiving expectation for this end-to-end real-time brand experience. It's become table stakes. If they have any need, it's met instantly, whether it's watching the latest blockbuster movie or sending a friend $5 for coffee or calling a car to get to a birthday party that's starting in 10 minutes. This all requires a continuous supply of real-time event streams coupled with real-time data stream processing to power the data-driven back-end operations and rich front-end experiences necessary for any business to succeed within today's competitive and consumer-driven markets. And I mean, what this means is you used to walk into banks to have to do any kind of a transaction, and now you can do most anything on your phone. To get approved for a loan or a mortgage, you would have to fill out paper applications, and those move from person to person throughout an organization. Now you can do it online, and it hits all the approvers at the same time. You used to have to find a busy intersection to manually flag down a taxi, and now you can just, while you're waiting for your check at dinner, call the rideshare back to your hotel from your phone. Your groceries and most of your retail can be delivered the same day. So how many organizations are doing this is with a product called Kafka. It's powerful, and it's already deployed in some fashion all over the place, and I'll get into what that is. One of my favorite philosophers, Heraclitus, said, you could not step in twice into the same river for other waters are ever flowing onto you. Unless that water is data and that river is Kafka, then sure. He also said things like everything flows, nothing stands still, there's nothing permanent except change. And the topic most apt to today, it is in the changing that we find our purpose, because the business is ever changing, the data is always flowing, and how we use that knowledge, what's happening right now in the context of what's already happened, helps us find our purpose as a business. So a little background. Kafka was invented at LinkedIn. And the folks that invented that product, it was originally how you would find out somebody viewed your profile. And they spun off and formed Confluent and developed this new paradigm called data in motion. Kafka itself is used, like Gustavo just said, at 80% of your Fortune 500 companies. And increasingly, new companies are built on event-driven architectures. And so it's not just things like downloads have gone away. This whole concept of having to wait to the end of the day for your account reconciliation on your mobile apps, or your fleet scheduling or fraud checks. Banks used to be in fraud refund business, and now they can be in fraud detection, fraud prevention. Daily or even weekly or sometimes monthly manual inventory updates are now real-time inventory management. If you're shopping at Walmart on the app and it says there's 3 items in the store and Gustavo buys one and I buy the other one, it gives you an alert and says, hey, there's only one left. You want to reserve it? You want to go to another store? You want us to ship it to you? This all happens in real time while you're at the app. And of course, those are just a handful of use cases. We have specific use cases to various verticals, and some here across the bottom that are horizontal to everyone. Anybody trying to build a data-driven, intelligent enterprise is going to need the pipelines. They're going to need hybrid cloud integration, fraud and security and anomaly detection, customer 360, streaming ETL, and things of that nature. So Kafka at its core is just it's a scalable, highly available, distributed append-only log, but it's foundational to an event streaming platform, which you can think of as the central nervous system of an enterprise. Kafka makes it very easy to get more value out of your existing systems and make them real time. Because it can decouple producers from consumers. They don't have to have these tight data contracts like they used to. So I like to say that the core mission of Kafka or an event-driven architecture is to grab everything from everywhere all the time and to make it available anywhere, anytime, in real time. Data is not static and at rest. It's not just sitting there in a database waiting to be queried, drifting gradually out of sync, but it's continuously evolving, continuously being processed and analyzed in real time. But the reality of a seasoned enterprise is that it's messy. This is what your world looks like before something like Confluent. This is what it might look like to attempt a digital transformation without event streaming. There's an untenable amount of point-to-point connections. The architecture can be rigid, complex, and expensive. It can be restrictive. Any change you make needs to be evaluated for impact 100 systems away. So analysts are chasing stale data from secondhand sources, and some data may only be available through periodic batch jobs. And this picture just looks like a big sloppy plate of spaghetti to me. And you can do microservices, which twirls that spaghetti up on a fork. You can support this on the big styrofoam plate, but you got to throw a lot of hands under it. If you try to lift and shift this mess to the cloud, you're just sliding that plate off into another styrofoam to-go box. Again, because Kafka can decouple the producers and consumers, they don't have to know anything about each other. It can help turn this into something more like this. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of how Kafka works. There's brokers, consumers, producers, and all of that kind of stuff that we could do in another deep dive session. But the core features of Kafka are really these high-level buckets. To publish and subscribe to streams of events, to store your event streams durably and reliably like a database, and to process and analyze your event streams on the fly. Often companies start their data in motion journey with PubSub, here on the left. But to think of Kafka as only PubSub messaging is like thinking of your iPhone as just a device for making and receiving phone calls. So what Confluent brings to the table is that we have made Kafka central to this event-driven architecture. And it's cloud native, it's complete, and it's everywhere. And what I mean by that is we made it cloud native by investing over 5 million engineering hours to take Kafka and make it cloud ready. And there's something like 70+ percent new code that's not found in Apache Kafka that makes it elastic, resilient, performant, and cost efficient, everything you would expect in a fully managed offering. And when I say everywhere, I mean from a Raspberry Pi to a mainframe or anything in between. It runs from the edge to the cloud. Customers have the choice of a self-managed version of the product on the right, and they can run it on any platform. They can run it on-prem. They can run it in the cloud of their choice. Or on the left, you have a fully managed version of the product where all of our experts will handle all of the knob turning and button pushing for you. And you can deploy that on AWS, Google, or Azure. So to give a picture of kind of what it means to productionize Kafka at scale, you can see on the left, we have this developer view, and there's none of these little circles attached to it. Those circles kind of indicate a place that's Confluent only or where you require a Confluent commercial relationship. So everybody who runs Apache Kafka, the open source version, or MSK at Amazon, or AMQ from Red Hat, or event streams at IBM, they get that column on the left, which, they get all of the clients, they get unrestricted developer productivity. You can rapidly prototype applications. But when it comes time to productionize it, operationalize it, as you move to the right, you can see that we add things like there's a metrics API, so you can attach Prometheus and Grafana easily. We have this thing called Health Plus, which takes some generic aggregated alerts from your system, and our support staff can proactively tell you, hey, you're heading for trouble, you want to make these changes. These are the same sorts of changes that our cloud team would make on your behalf. We have support for Kubernetes. We're certified on OpenShift and HP Esmeralda and VMware Tanzu. We have Red Hat certified Ansible playbooks. We have things that architects are interested in, like BYOK and private networking. We have stream governance via a product called Schema Registry, which not only helps to evolve your schema so that an application that needs schema A only uses schema A, and an application that needs schema B only uses schema B. You can evolve it and enrich it and add new fields for schema C, and other applications can use it without it breaking the other schemas. But along with that comes a stream catalog. So rather than everybody getting their own stream, if you have an existing stream, somebody can just do a self-service request, and they can see the stream lineage, and they say, oh, I see that it's merging accounts information from Oracle while it's picking up transactional data from MQ coming off the mainframe, and that's exactly the feed I need. The data owner can say, yes, you can have that feed, but you're not allowed to see customer balances because of our policy. And they can redact or mask or tokenize or even encrypt at the field level those, and give you the same feed without making any modifications. And then for global resilience and DR, we have things like multi-region clustering and cluster linking. And we don't really have a time to get into like to double click on all of these, but I want to take a look at like this rich ecosystem of partners and connectors. So we have hundreds of no-code drop-in source and sync solutions, and this has been absolutely Kafka's #1 acquisition vehicle, because say you have MQ or RabbitMQ or Postgres or Oracle, and you're trying to move that data into something like Mongo, or you want to take your analytics workloads and move them into Databricks or Snow. We have these drop-in connectors that allow you to do that. And while Onibex isn't connector-based, they have built a native integration, which is, if this is the fast and easy button, they've built a more powerful and flexible integration that allows you to source anything that you need from SAP and put it into Confluent, and then help you with the fan out. So if you want, again, your analytics stuff going to Databricks or BigQuery, if you want to move to a hosted database like Mongo, Atlas, or Snowflake, if you need vector-based search for generative AI, there's Elastic, there's Flink, and the demo that we're going to show today is going from SAP to Salesforce. And with that, I will pass it back to Gustavo.
Thank you, Jeremy. So we're gonna show here first of what we're gonna see in this demo. That's better. Okay, so what we're gonna see? We're gonna see one connect in action, and one connect has two parts. It has an ABAP part, and it has another part that is hosted in that is based on Kubernetes. It can be hosted on BTP Kima, but also can be hosted on AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. So there is here a connection that is secure and encrypted, and we can see, monitors and the monitoring and alerts. So this component from the left side, that is, we're gonna see in action, is sending data in JSON format, and basically the component on the right side is getting the data on the JSON format and converting it to Avro, creating the schema registries, creating the topics. It has supports for schema evolution. It can handle, errors, putting in a dead letter pattern, and from those dead letters queues, it sends an email or an SMS. So OneConnect can also create partitions and segments for these topics that we're creating on the fly. So basically, the concept here is that we want to have a producer and subscribers. As we know, a Confluent can store the data. So basically, we're sending from SAP the metadata and the data. For what? For sales orders, for procurement of purchase orders, production orders, but also for master data. And we're gonna see this in action in a minute. that we're gonna see a combination of transactional data, master data, enterprise structure data, and we can also send custom data from tables and CDS views because it works for both ECC and S/4HANA. So once we get the data in Confluent, we can have n numbers of subscribers, whether that is an application, a database, a device, or lakehouse. So basically, again, what we're going to see here is the ERP sending data to one connect that is going to be sending data to Confluent. In one instance, we're going to be sending data to Salesforce. And in another instance, we're going to be sending data to Databricks on the cloud. And then from there, we're going to see it in a Power BI. Okay, so it's very simple here. We already have some pre-built use cases like the mapping between SAP and Salesforce. So let's see it in action. Andrea is going to help us here to do this quick demo and see how it works, for us to see how it works.
Excellent. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it.
Yes, we're good. Perfect. So I have the phone part, which is presenting the live demo. And bear with me because we're going to see a lot of the screens here, okay? That's why I have an image for reference here in the left. So in both scenarios, we're going to see our SAP. Here we have our SAP S/4HANA. Then we're going to see our One Connect. Here is our platform. Then the information is going to flow through Confluent. Here we're going to be able to see it. And then it's going to flow, in one case, it's going to flow to Salesforce, and the other one is going to flow to Databricks and Power BI. So let's start with Salesforce. As you can see here, we don't have any data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a sales order from our SAP. Let's do this.
So in this instance, we're using, BA01, but if you guys are using Fiori to access the system, or if the order is coming from another system, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. Let's say that the order gets created in an iPad or in a mobile app from somewhere else. It's pretty much going to be the same thing here, the same result.
Yes.
Okay. So here, as we know, Salesforce have their own order number, and that it's generated on the Salesforce system. But here in the details, we can see that the SAP order number that just got generated.
In this case was a 5315, and here we have it, 5315. Perfect. Okay, let's go to our second scenario. For this second scenario, once again, we're going to see our SAP. We're going to go, it's going to flow through our One Connect, our Confluent, but this time we're going to have our Databricks that it's going to send information to our Power BI. So in this case, we're going to see two different scenarios. In one of the scenarios, as you can see here, we don't have any invoice sent on 2020. So what I'm going to do is send a lot of invoices for 2020 from January 1st to December 31, and it's going to be reflected in this dashboard. In our second exercise, I don't have any invoice yet in November, so I'm just going to create an invoice and we're going to see it here in real time. So let's go ahead and start with this.
So here, very important, we're creating an invoice from a delivery. Something that is important is we have, of course, dashboards that are to take decisions, and sometimes we don't need real time for that. But then if we want to democratize data, we have some other dashboards that are more, for operational situations, like open orders that need to be picked and packed, or, the inventory in real time, and those kind of things that are crucial for the operations to get information. And a lot of times, there are people that don't have access to SAP, not just because of the licensing, but because of the understanding on how to use SAP.
Let's go here and understand. Okay, now we can see here that we have the data in November, but let's go inside our invoice so we can understand what happened behind, right? So let's open SAP, and I'm going to go directly to our invoice.
Yeah, so here basically we are triggering a program, the program that we're going to show in a minute, from an output message that is something that SAP has as a standard. And basically that output message can print an invoice, can send it by email. In this case, this output message is triggering our program. It's the same output message that will create an IDOC, but we're not creating IDOCs. Basically, we're just using this event to trigger our program that we're going to show in a minute. And that this event is basically sending us the object type, that is an invoice, and the object ID, meaning the ID of the invoice. In this
Okay.
case.
Let's go ahead then. And I'm going to go back here. Let's go back to recap what's going to happen. And we're going to send the data from 2020, but I want to be very transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in our Databricks, I'm going to run query just so you guys can see that we don't have anything in 2020, okay? So I'm just going to run it. And okay, perfect. It came empty. So let's see how this flows. And I'm going to open our program.
So this is the program that, the only program that is going to send data. So here we have the processes: order to cash, procure to pay, planning to produce, inventory management, etc. And basically from there, it gives the option to select transactional data or master data. We're in this instance selecting transactional and invoices. We're sending about 1,000 invoices. In this case, we're using the field names, but we also have the option to send the field descriptions. So don't worry, if you don't speak Japanese, we're gonna make it easy for you. You're not gonna see the MATNR and these tables that we're gonna use it today because we love Japanese. But in that instance, you're gonna have material number, customer numbers, those kind of things to make the life easy.
It's coming really quickly, but you can see how the requests went up here. So of course, we're sending data, and in our One Connect, it's being reflected. So let's go ahead and let's go to our Power BI. Well, first, let's go to our Databricks so you guys can see now that I can run, if I run the same query that I was just running for 2020, now we're going to have the data that was just sent from our SAP.
Yes,
Here.
and this is the gold view. So this gold table is basically showing us the summarization of invoices per sales organization, distribution channel, etc., etc. So we're sending raw data from SAP, and then we have the silver layer, the gold layer, and now we can go to Power BI and see this data that is coming from the gold layer.
Exactly. So I'm just going to refresh here so we can see how this has been.
Yes, and we're showing Power BI, but basically we're agnostic, and because the data at the end of the day is in Power BI, the data can be shown in SAP Analytics Cloud. It can be shown on Tableau or QuickSight. We also have it because we have an amazing relationship with AWS. We have this built in QuickSight as well. So in SAP Analytics Cloud, which is SAP Analytics Cloud can connect to many different databases as well. So now we're getting this data in from a batch mode that can be run, of course, in background.
I do want to make an emphasis here. Here we have the data for 2020. I will refresh in a minute again. But I do want to make a pause here and just, as Gustavo was saying, we know that not everybody speaks Japanese. So let me show you guys here how, as we saw here in our program, when you have the option of not only seeing our SAP fields, like the name of the tables, we can also send you the labels. So it will look something like this. So here, instead of looking into, the VBAK or the different tables from SAP, you will be able to see the currency, the sales organization, etc.
Yes. So very important, because we're sending metadata. You don't have to worry on creating these tables manually. That is done by Confluent Kafka. So basically, we are getting the metadata from SAP, and Onibex created this logic to translate SAP data to Avro. And based on that, we're pretty much converting SAP, that we have quantities, for example. So Avro has three types of quantities. One is the integer, float, and double. So we already did that heavy lifting to say, okay, this header invoice has a quantity field. Let's assign a double. Let's assign a float. So same thing for dates. For example, SAP has a date, but you don't want to pass it as a string. You want to make sure that you pass it as a date so that you can make operations based on date on your database. Same thing, we have the document numbers that are on a string, material numbers, those kind of things, that instead of going one by one, the uniqueness of Onibex is that we're sending the full metadata from SAP, including the schema evolution, for us to get this into Confluent Cloud that Andrea is showing here. So we're sending data, and here is the data. But we also have the metadata that is creating the schema registries. So now you have the capability to use whatever connector from Confluent. That is very important, because Confluent already has more than 200 connectors to send data, not just to databases, but also to applications, like in this case, we showed to Salesforce. So Confluent has that connector, and we took care of the mapping. For instance, SAP, as Andrea was showing, has the invoice header table, but then you have to link it with the invoice items, then with the customer. Then if we go to the Power BI, Andy.
Yes.
So basically here we have the relationship of invoice with customers, for example, right? So if we open customers, we're gonna see that we have now the ability to see the sales by customers. So we're seeing the names of the customer, not just we're not seeing the IDs, because it will be hard for us to know that the Big Mart is customer 10085. So we're sending descriptions. Same thing for zone. So when we create an invoice on SAP, we're getting the ID of the zone, not the description of the zone. So on using OneConnect, because we can send the configuration data, we send the description of zone, offices, channel, plant, etc., so that you can get it all together in different silver views, and then to have gold views that unify those silver views with summarizations for sales by month, sales by material groups, sales by material, by customer, etc., so that you can, very easy start building these dashboards on your own. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be self-sufficient. We're just creating the technology to connect these applications, and then you can build more on your own. Okay, so thanks Andy for showing this this demo. I'm gonna share the screen here again. Okay, all right, so we saw this in action, this demo in action. So basically what we have in Onibex is we're enabling the integration between technology from a prepackaged point of view. But there is still a lot to do, because as we know, every organization is customizing their own solutions. So there is no one single SAP implementation that is going to be the same for two companies. That it's, you know, every company adds their own flavor. So because of that, you need to, yeah, first you can see it in action. You can try it. So we are offering proof of concepts on your premises, on your cloud connected to RISE, or if you're hosting it yourself or on with a hyperscaler, no worries. We know how to take care of that. We have done that, deal with those many cases like with RISE to make sure that we get the communication flowing. At the end of the day, remember, one connect, one part is on the SAP environment, on the ERP environment, and the other one can be deployed on the SAP BTP, and that is validated already by SAP. It's going to be published next week on the SAP store. So now you're going to have access to the solution via the SAP store because it's deployed on schema, is using, you know, a strong encryption, so the data flows encrypted from the ERP to the SAP BTP schema, and from there to Confluent as well. So you can try it on your own premises, and this try is, you know, it takes us about 5 to 10 days more or less to get it installed. It's very simple, and then you can make it yours. And for this one, basically you can make your own changes, you can make your own additions. If you have custom data, because every single company has custom data, you can add the containerized solution to be executed via an RFC, a function module, an object, whatever is your preference, and then send that custom data on your own. You don't have a dependency on Onibex to do the job. It's not a black box. It's something that is very simple. As we saw, it's only one single program that has a containerized function to send data and metadata to Confluent. And then the other part of the solution that is based on Kubernetes and can be deployed on SAP BTP schema, or it can be deployed on GCP or AWS or Azure. That is, you know, basically the one that is doing that heavy lifting of converting it to Avro, creating schemas, topics, etc. And from here, we can show these proof of concepts. Let's say, for example, that you have some PLCs with Siemens, or you have a MongoDB that you want to send information to, or from same SQL Server, Oracle, Redis, Salesforce, Databricks. We have all of these instances as part of our Onibex labs, so that we can do these demos for you very quickly based on specific needs that you might have. Okay, so I'm gonna open it to Q&A. If somebody has any questions, please feel free to put the questions in the chat, or we can open the microphone here for a specific questions that you might have.
Jay had raised his hand earlier. Jay, are you still with us? He's in the UK, so
Okay.
let's see.
Jay, do you have a
Okay, I'm
question?
trying to see. It says, I asked him to unmute. I don't know if he's still there. I gave him permission to talk.
Okay, so
I guess
Gabriela sent us a question. She's asking us if we're using the native Kafka client. Yes, we're using the native Kafka client. So basically, we're sending the data from SAP to OneConnect, and OneConnect is using the native Kafka client. We have another question from Paola. She's asking us if we support Confluent Cloud or only the platform, and we support both. we have support for Confluent Cloud, and that's the one that we show for this demo. But if you're using Confluent Platform, we also provide support for Confluent Platform. Okay, so very good questions for today. So that's it for this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please feel free to contact Micaela, who is our global partner manager, Lisa, who's here helping us with this webinar. Here's the contact information as well for Shirel. Please feel free to reach out to them as you have more questions. We can have a one-on-one follow-up session. We appreciate everybody's time for connecting today.
We had one more question. If you have time, Gustavo, will one connect complement or be an alternative to DataSphere?
Okay, so it can be a complement, but the reality is that if you're going to select a data warehouse, because DataSphere is a data warehouse that has a component for integrations, that is actually a very good question here. So you have to select two components very carefully here. One is your data fabric, and the other one is going to be your data warehouse or data lake, or data lakehouse, which is the fusion between a lakehouse and a warehouse. So you need to be very selective on those components, because you want to make sure that you can have one repository that can homologate all data, and that will be your data warehouse. So just check which are some of the characteristics of DataSphere, especially when it comes in terms of pricing to scale and save the data, not just from SAP, but from pretty much every single source. So it can be a complement to get the data to another source, but it can be an alternative completely if you want to use, let's say, the Databricks or any other data warehouse or lakehouse for your enterprise.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay. So thanks everybody again. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us for this session.
Yes, thank you.